What's up, guys? First of all, let me just say that the glasses, I'm wearing the glasses because I've been having some pretty bad eye problems for the past 2 days. And I think it's allergies. My eyes just really burn and I see really blurry. I feel like I have to keep going like that constantly. I wear glasses anyways, I just never wear them. I only wear them when I go to school or something like that, or I have to see, because I'm nearsighted. So yeah, in case you guys didn't know, I wear glasses. So yeah, this is that special video that I've been telling you guys on Twitter and on Facebook, and I believe I updated you guys with it as well. I'm sorry I couldn't get it up yesterday. I was running around like crazy. I didn't have time at all to film, so but here I am, and this special video, I think it's special. I've taken my time to do the research on this, and there is a lot of research, but I think it's something that should be done, just because of something recent that happened, and also because people that aren't aware of this game or don't know about this game, like I was, could get really confused regarding the main character and the storyline and all that. So what game is it? I'm going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid. I absolutely adore this series without even playing it. I did watch my brother play Snake Eater back when, I don't know, it was a long time ago. He played it on the PS2. Someone let us borrow it. And he was playing Snake Eater, and I absolutely fell in love with the style of the game. I was just like, oh my god, it looks like so much fun. I never played any of the games just because I never owned a PS or a PlayStation. So I was just like, oh, that's one of the main reasons I always wanted a PlayStation, was because I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid, and because that game just seemed like it was made for me. Like, everything about it. I just absolutely loved it. And it made me so sad that I was never able to play it. So they came out with this little HD collection for the Xbox, finally. I believe it was in December or November, something like that. And I got it for Christmas. This comes with Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker for the PSP. Now, what I'm going to talk about in this video is I'm going to give a little bit of a background when it comes to the games, the chronological order to the games, and the main character, Snake, because this could really confuse some people that don't know anything about Metal Gear Solid. And then what this video is mostly going to be about is Metal Gear Solid, the game. It was remade for the GameCube, which I had no idea about until I started to do this research. And I'm actually going to try to get a hold of that game so that I could possibly play it on my Wii. It was remade for the GameCube, and they called it Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes. So I actually saw a full Let's Play for this. I saw the full walkthrough for Metal Gear Solid, and I believe it was the PlayStation version. I don't think it was the GameCube version. But it's basically the same story. And I watched the walkthrough just because, and I haven't played this at all, because people were telling me you should at least read up or watch a walkthrough of Metal Gear Solid, the first one. So I was like, okay. So that's what I did. I've been doing that for a few days now, watching the full walkthrough, and I saw the whole thing. And let me just say, wow. The game is absolutely awesome. Even if it's such an old game, it's got such an awesome story, and I'm just super excited to play these games after watching that. I'm like, wow, it's almost like you're watching an anime. Like that type of feeling that you get when you're watching an anime. I mean, it's not surprising, given the origins of this game, but it's a good walkthrough to watch. Even if you just watch the cutscenes, it's fun. Like it's almost like you're watching a movie or something like that. It really gets you interested into it. So yeah, let's start off with a few basics. I also wanted to mention that I'm going to be doing more of these for Metal Gear. So if I don't go deep into something, because this game has a lot of information. So I'm probably going to do like specific videos for certain characters, main characters, important characters, specific videos for other games and all that. But right now, let's just start with the chronological order of the video games. And I say chronological order, not release order, because they are very different. Remember which ones are on here. There's Metal Gear Solid, there's Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So you know where this actually falls in place when it comes to the chronological order. Chronological order is Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. It was a prequel, so that's why it's not Metal Gear Solid 1. It's Metal Gear Solid 3, so they made that as the prequel to all the Metal Gear Solid games. That was released for the PS2. Then it's Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. This was for the PSP. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. That was also for the PSP. Metal Gear. This was released for the PC, an old school Microsoft computer, and the Nintendo. Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. This was for the PC, I believe, only for the PC. And then Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes. This is the one that I'm going to be talking about, the one that I said. Sometimes it's called just Metal Gear Solid. And this was released for the PlayStation and then the GameCube. And then Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty for the PS2. Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. This was for the PS3. And then Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance. This is for the PS3, Xbox 360. So I read, I don't know, I guess. I haven't read too much on it, but that'd be cool. And the PC. And this doesn't star Snake, it stars Raiden. So that's how that goes. But now let me talk about Snake, because this could confuse a lot of you. It confused me for a little bit. There have been 4 snakes. One of them was the original, the main guy, and the rest of them were clones. Now, the original Snake, his real name was John. They called him Jack. His code name was Naked Snake. He's also known as Saladin by a character called Sniper Wolf that comes out in Metal Gear Solid that I will be mentioning. And he's also known as Big Boss. So Big Boss is Naked Snake. And Naked Snake is the original Snake. He's not a clone, he's the guy. He's Snake. He's known as the one of the most legendary soldiers of the U.S. Army. And he was part of a special forces unit called Foxhound. And he was also the founder of Foxhound. So if you're playing Metal Gear Solid, any of the Metal Gear Solids, you will hear Foxhound all over the place. That's what Foxhound is. It's this special forces unit that was started by Big Boss. He was also the commander of Militaires Sans Frontières, and this is Soldiers Without Borders. He was the commander of that, and he was also he led to the creation of Outer Heaven in Africa. This was pretty much Big Boss's dream of ending abuse and exploitation of soldiers by the patriots and the politicians. So it was like a haven for soldiers, and Big Boss wanted there to be some protection for these soldiers from being exploited. But that's Outer Heaven. He was the one that started that idea. So these are the games that Naked Snake stars in, the protagonist. Because this is where people get confused, because they're different snakes. Now, Naked Snake, Big Boss, the original guy, he starred in Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, which is the prequel to all the Metal Gear Solid games. Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So those were Naked Snake, or Big Boss. He was the protagonist in those games. Now let me talk about Solid Snake. Solid Snake is the protagonist of the game that I'm going to be talking about, Metal Gear Solid. Solid Snake is also known as Old Snake, and his name is David. He was a former spy and special operations soldier and mercenary. He was a member of Foxhound as well. Solid Snake thinks that he was the son, he pretty much is, but the son of Naked Snake, of Big Boss. He thinks he was his son. But what he finds out in Metal Gear Solid, in the Twin Snake game, he finds out that he's actually a clone. That he's not his son. He's a clone of Big Boss. Let me just quickly say the games where that Solid Snake is the protagonist in. He's the protagonist in Metal Gear. He's the protagonist in Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid, The Twin Snakes, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. So that's Solid Snake in those games. But and it's easy to confuse them because they look absolutely the same because they're clones. Naked Snake and Solid Snake. So that's why it's like, oh, it's the same snake. They're different. Before I go more into him, let me just say the other snakes. It's Liquid Snake. Liquid Snake came out in Metal Gear Solid, The Twin Snakes, and it's called The Twin Snakes because Solid Snake and Liquid Snake were both clones of Naked Snake, of Big Boss. I hope this isn't getting confusing. Big Boss, since he was one of the best soldiers of the U.S. Army in the 20th century, the government did this. They made this project called L'Enfant Terrible, and that means the terrible children in French. And this project, what it was to get the genes of Big Boss and create these clones, like these perfect soldiers. And out of those soldiers, Liquid Snake talks about this. He's telling, because Solid Snake didn't know about this. So Liquid was the one that knew. So he was the one that was telling Solid Snake. He was explaining all of this to him. And Liquid is a bad guy. So he wants to kill Snake. I'll tell you why. So originally, they cloned 8 babies from Big Boss. They got his genes and they made these 8 clones. They put these fertilized eggs in a surrogate mother so that they could be developed. After some time, they intentionally aborted 6 babies so that there were only 2 left. And they did this to encourage strong fetal growth so that there was only 2. And these 2 were Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. And the thing that Liquid Snake is mad about is that the scientists wanted all of Big Boss's genes to be visible. They wanted to not like, because some people, like let's say me, I have some in my genes. I have some recessive genes and some dominant genes. The dominant genes are the ones that show up more dominant. For example, a dominant gene is dark hair, dark eyes, that type of stuff. Recessive genes are light skin, light eyes, and a bunch of other stuff, light hair. They wanted to pretty much take all of the dominant genes of Big Boss and have them all show up and not some of them be dormant while the recessive were, if that makes sense. So what they did was they took all of Liquid's dominant genes and put them into Solid Snake. And they got the recessive genes of Solid Snake and they put them into Liquid. So they don't have one person representing recessive and dominant genes. They have Solid Snake representing dominant genes and Liquid representing recessive genes. So that's what made Liquid mad. He was like, I was like the junk baby. Like I was just your recessive genes and you were the dominant baby. You were the one that represented Big Boss more. And that's why Solid Snake looks almost identical to Naked Snake or Big Boss. And Liquid doesn't. Liquid looks different. Liquid has blonde hair and he looks different. But he's supposed to have the same types of features. And they made his hair blonde because he represents the recessive genes. I read that he's supposed to be, his skin color is a little bit darker than Solid Snake, which makes no sense. Because if you know anything, they kind of like got that wrong when it comes to genetics. Recessive genes make you lighter. You got light skin for recessive genes. So Solid Snake is technically supposed to be darker than Liquid, but whatever. And then Liquid tells Solid Snake that although there was only 2 babies that were born that were direct clones of Naked Snake, there's the human genome soldiers. These are soldiers that have been genetically enhanced. These genome soldiers are actually also enhanced by the genetics of Big Boss. So they got the genes of Big Boss, and they called them the soldier genes. They were able to identify over 60 soldier genes responsible for soldiers types of actions. Liquid says down to the killer instinct. And they got all these genes and they injected them so that it could make them like super soldiers. So technically, they weren't born directly a clone, but they do have Big Boss's genetics in them, artificially put into them. So Liquid calls them their digital. So these genome soldiers are your perfect soldier because they have Big Boss's genetics in them. So Liquid is like, technically they are also our brothers. But what Liquid didn't know and what Solid Snake didn't know was that there was a 3rd baby. That they didn't abort 6 babies. They aborted 5 babies. And that's where I left off. I don't know what happens afterwards because that's how Metal Gear Solid ends. Where someone is talking. You can't see anything. Someone's talking like on the phone. And the guy's saying, "Oh, yes, sir. Nobody knows about your existence, blah, blah, blah." And he calls him Solidus. He's just saying like all this weird stuff, and you're just like, "Oh, he got away." He's talking about Solid Snake. Him and the girl got away, and yes, we'll keep an eye on him, and blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, "Yes, sir. Okay." He says goodbye, and then he says, "Mr. President." So it's just like, oh my god, the President of the United States is a clone, or is the brother of Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. And he was actually a direct clone of Naked Snake. I don't know too much about this right now because that's as far as I got with Metal Gear Solid. But it turns out that the President of the United States is Solidus Snake, and he is another clone. So those are the 4 snakes. I really hope that didn't confuse you guys. So I'm going to end this first part on that note. The second part, I will be going into the plot and a little bit more about the characters and that stuff regarding that game. So yeah, that's it for this part. Stay tuned for part 2. Oh, and if I'm confusing you guys, please let me know what part was confusing, and I'll try my best to clarify.